I'll be speaking on the topic optimized queries in Django. I'll try to be little generic, the concepts that you can apply anywhere in, whether it's a MySQL or Postgres. But yeah, initial few slides, you may find it a little bit more towards Django. So with that, I'll quickly start. So this is some of the outlines that I'm going to talk about, finding out the problems. How do you find out that what is the problem in your database or the queries that you're writing? Some of the ORM's best practices, bulk operations, what are some of the best practices around it? When is the scenario to use raw queries over using ORMs? Using Spily and Jinja for more of the complex use cases, and how you can think about optimizing your queries. Right, so this is the outline. So first point, finding out the problem, right? So in typical applications, if you're building anything, it's very important to log the queries that your APIs or your application is executing. So I try to put more focus on this because most of the times that I have seen take it little lightly and they don't realize the importance of it. And when suddenly the number of queries or the number of records grows in your table, and when you start facing the performance problem, then you have no way to track that what query is taking how much time, right? So it's very important that right from the beginning, you log all the queries that are getting executed. If you're in Django world, probably you can use handlers, loggers. And there is an interesting thing that slow query log parameter, you can configure your handler to log the queries which are taking, let's say, more than X amount of time or more than 1 second, for example, let's say. So make sure that even if you're not putting any kind of filter, like taking more than this much time you're logging it, at least all the queries you should log and all the important information which will help you later at the stage to check that, okay, how much time my query is taking, what is the actual query, and all those things. If you are logging, it will help you a lot. On the similar line, there is a tool called as Django Debug Toolbar. It's very famous, and the people who work on Django will be pretty much aware. Always use this tool. If you are not sure how many queries are getting executed in your API or any web call that you are making, always use this tool. So these are some of the ways you can benchmark your queries and you can at least see what is the problem going on, right? So first step is to at least to understand and figure out what is the problem. And for that, logging is very important. That is where this slides talk about, right? So second, this is mainly related to Django ORM, right? So you can see a snippet of code, 4 lines, top 4 lines at the top. So can you guys just think about it? How many queries will have been getting executed if I just execute only top 4 lines of code, right? So most of you will be thinking maybe 2, 3. I'm not sure. But yeah, most of you, I'm assuming, who are not very much familiar with Django ORM's query sets concepts, they'll be around it. But no, it's actually making a zero API call. And all those query sets that you see, right? Query set is in like entry.object.filter or exclude or anything. These are just query sets. And these are lazy in nature. So by default, they don't get executed until unless you evaluate those or try to evaluate those query sets. We'll talk more that what is a query set and when they get actually evaluated, right? So next topic comes in when this query sets gets evaluated. So query sets is nothing but for the people who are not from Django background, the entry.object.filter is one thing that you are saying from entry model, try to filter something, right? So this is your query set. And this is only gets evaluated when you're trying to put that into iteration or you're trying to slice that like filter. And from that array, you're trying to get the third element or top 3 or top 5, you're trying to slice it, or you're trying to find out what is the length of my query set, or you're trying to list down your query set. At that time, your query set gets evaluated. Another example can be if you're trying to put that into a if statement. So for example, if.entry.object.filter, right? So if you see the last example, you still have filter over here, right? But it was not getting evaluated this time because you're not using it. Once you say, put it into a if condition, it will get evaluated because now it has to know what was the, is there any object existing over there or not, right? So these are some of the scenarios where actually your query sets gets evaluated. And if you are facing any of this and you keep doing all this whole day, like this top 4 lines, keep filtering or just do all, your query sets will never get executed no matter what you write, or basically no DB call will be made you keep writing all this, right? So it's very important to understand at what point of time your Django framework will make a call, DB call specifically, right? So these are some of the places where your query sets gets evaluated. Second thing is query sets are also gets cached, right? And to minimize the access to the database, like each and every time you're evaluating a query set, it should not make a DB call for the same thing again and again, right? So it maintains a cache also. So it's also important to understand in what scenario it caches and in what scenario it actually goes to the DB, get the data and solve, right? So if you see print e.headline from e.entry.object, it makes a DB call, right? If you write the same line again, then again it makes a DB call. But instead of that, if you do create a query set for all the objects and then you use it, right? First time you're trying to, so as soon as you write the line query set equal to object.all and you try to use it into the for loop, so that at that time it gets evaluated and now your stored results are cached. So you do p.headline, it's execute a query set, and next time anything that you're trying to get from your query set, it will still use your cache, right? So it's just very important to understand at what point of time your query set will actually make a DB API call, at what point of time it will use from your cache. So its understanding of this is very important, right? So moving next, some of the Django ORM's best practices. Query sets are lazily evaluated. We just discussed this in brief. Another thing is avoid n+1 queries. So in most of the scenarios, right, people take it very lightly. They don't realize that I'm making n+ queries or not. So it's very important that whenever you're writing a for loop or you're playing around with the ORM over a for loop, make sure you're not making n+1 queries. And I can assure you, 70-80% of the time, people do mess up around with the n+1 queries, right? Not knowingly, maybe unknowingly, but they end up into this scenario where they have n+1 queries problem, right? So make sure that you're not hitting it, especially where you have a foreign key and you're trying to get some foreign key data. At that time, it gets messed up. So try to use select related and prefetch related in those scenarios. And another point is databases are much faster doing some job in your Python loop. So some of the cases what I've seen is what people do is
it's 13 hours.
Try to get the complete set of things, and then they, let's say if they need all the employees which salary is greater than something and age is greater than something, then they get all the object and they try to iterate over a for loop and keep appending the results into a query set or a list, right? Let that database do the job for this job can be better handled by database rather than doing a Python loop for the same use case, right? And there are a lot of functions that you can use. For example, update, filter, aggregate. There are a lot of functions which does that, right? So always keep that into mind that your databases are much faster for those kind of work than your Python loops, right? And sometimes maybe, let's say if you have an employee table and if it has some 100 attributes, you say employee.object.get ID equal to, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You may not need all the 100 objects. You just need probably first name, last name, or email address, right? So always use values or value list to get only the columns that you are required from your table, right? You don't need to get all the objects and then probably aggregate it or transform it and then return it to the UI, right? So make sure whatever you need, you're using the correct filter for that and correct function you are using to get only the set of values that you require. Continuing on the same, sometimes your job is to just check that, is there an employee with this ID existing or not, right? So one of the scenarios that I have seen people, what they do is object employee.objects.get ID equal to that ID. You don't need to get that object and then check that this object is existing or not. You can just simply say .exists function, right? It will return you in Boolean. It will not try to get that complete employee object set over the internet or over the network to your app server or web server and then trying to evaluate that was there an employee with this ID or not, right? So make sure wherever there is a scenario where you just want a Boolean that this thing is happening or not, use .exist function. And most of the time, people also mess up with count. So let's take up a scenario where you want to find out all the employees which greater than age of 20 and less than 30, right? So people do filtering. People do dot filter is greater than this and less than this. They get that and then they'll take a length of it or convert into a list and then get a length of it, right? What is happening over here is you are ultimately getting all the objects data, all the employee objects data over the network on your app server or web server and then calculating the length of it. But there is a nice function dot count. It will just return you the count of that. All the data transfer that you are doing through your dot filter will not happen in that scenario. So make sure that you are using count and exist wherever you just care about whether it's a Boolean or where you just worry about the count of that, right? Second topic on this is handling too many rows, right? Let's say you have a use case where you want to iterate over employees, and employees maybe in thousands or more than that. Then the most of the time people do for employee in employee.object.all, right? You can do that, but the problem with that is it also, as I told you, query set maintains a cache, right? If you don't want to use that employee.object.all later on also, or if you don't want, or if its use case is only iterated over once, then the best way is employee.objects.iterate, so that you're not getting all the objects and caching it. Idea is to just iterate it only once and then forget it probably, right? So in those scenarios, rather than doing object.all, iterator is the one thing that you can avoid actually using it a lot of memory head that got creating using object.all, right? So if you have a use case where you want to iterate over a lot of rows, use iterator instead of .all. And some of the things that you should strictly avoid, start with distinct. These are basically n-square kind of scenarios where you will be traversing your database or that particular table in n-square manner. It's very complicated or very, I would say, time-consuming queries. You should not do this. Find out a different way if you want. If you have some use case like give me all the users whose name start with or ends with those kind of scenarios. Avoid like queries on your this thing unless you really have a use case for that. Or you can probably figure out a better implementation of it. If the record set is really, really large, then you should strictly avoid it and don't do that, right? Another important way is caching frequently used queries. So I'll tell you a scenario where, let's say you are building a multi-tenant application where, let's say you have 5 or 6 multiple tenants, and depending upon the user who is trying to log in, you just need to get that tenant application, like what is the name, what is the description, or some logo, right? Depending upon user, you always need to make a call on those 5 tenants. So it's better to cache those results and use it later stage rather than each and every time as soon as the user logs in, just to get the tenant information, you're always hitting that table, right? So identify those scenarios where you can cache a result and use it at the later stage. Use pagination, very important and basic thing, probably I would say. You eventually don't let your API just having an open-ended where you say, just give me all the result set and you just return it over the internet. If the result sets or the number of records grows beyond a particular limit, this will start taking a lot of time. So it's always best practice to paginate your API, probably limit and offset and 10, 20, 50, depending upon your application use case. It's always good to have a pagination over there. Okay. Moving next, bulk operations, right? So I want to talk about one anti-pattern that people generally follow while updating a record into any table. Let's take an example of employee, right? You want to update the employee, let's say, state. So what people do is employee.object.get ID equal to that ID, get the employee, and then employee.city equal to, they will assign something else, and then employee.save. Is very common practice that people do. And this ends up actually executing 2-3 queries. So what you can do is, in a single line, you can say employee.object.update and whatever values you want to assign it, right? So instead of getting it and then updating and then saving it back, you can directly use .update function. So it's anti-pattern to do first fetch and then update. And talking about bulk create and bulk update, in some of the scenarios, you may require to create 10 or 15 or hundreds of employees together or in one shot, right? So how do you do that? Probably the very basic way is you just start iterating over it in a for loop over 1,000 objects and create the objects and keep adding it, right? But there is a feature called as bulk create and bulk update from Django that you can use, and you can give all the list of employees probably in batches. You don't want to give 1,000 in one shot, probably 50 or 100 batches depending upon your data size and other things. You want to create those objects and then directly give it to create. So it will ideally make a one single query, and then it will add those 50 or whatever pool size that you have decided. It will make a single query and add your 50 employees, right? So make sure wherever there is a requirement of bulk create or bulk update, you are using those features. Let's say if you're not from Django background and if you have a simple raw queries using which you want to update a lot of records, right? For example, I have an employee and I have a created date over here when this employee was created, and I want to reformat it and assign it that data string format I want to change, and I want to assign it to something else, right? This is a probably simple scenario, but things can be more complicated also. So in that case, one of the ways, again, start iterating over it and then probably try updating, executing the raw query one by one, right? I'm not talking about Django ORM, it's about raw queries, right? So you don't have a facility to bulk update and bulk create over here. What you can do is you can first write a command to select something, right? Write a single query which selects that, and then just add a update something equal to something in the beginning. So this is the one of the way that I choose to convert a single or a simple query to any kind of update or delete that you want to perform using raw queries, right? So this is about bulk operations. If you have how you can do it using raw SQL queries, right? So probably this is not pretty much related to Django, but in general, whichever framework you are using, framework will have their own different object relation handler, like in case of Django it's ORM and multiple things, right? So at any point of time you realize that my queries are getting way too complicated, or you have a kind of reporting or analytics kind of use case, it's better to write raw queries rather than using still ORM, right? So write a raw queries. There are two ways that you can execute it. You can use Django ORM also, and then also you can write it. The advantage that you get is the result set is still mapped to the employee directly, right? And you can say employee that object dot name or object dot age. So first is you can use still Django ORM and you can use raw queries. And then another way is just simply whatever query you want to execute, it can be as complicated as having a joins over multiple tables or having a group by over multiple tables. In those scenarios, ORM's writing become very, very complicated, right? So it's a best case. You can use connection.cursor and you can write your raw query and you can bind your parameters over there and you can execute and get the results, right? So the whole summary of this slide is, at any point of time you realize my ORM is getting too complicated and management is becoming really a pain, start writing raw queries and keep using it, right? Jinja SQL, another topic. If you are using raw queries, it's a very important topic probably. So I think Jinja template is pretty famous as HTML templated language. On the same terms, for the Python language, it's Jinja SQL is written by Hastin, by the way. So it's a templating language which you can use in case of if you want to execute queries in using Python language, and if you want some kind of templating support over there, so think of a typical scenario where you have an offset, you have a limit, and user has selected multiple parameters in the front end, and then you need to apply all those on your SQL, right? So one way is you do ++ and keep adding those parameters in your query, Python string basically, which is not probably good way, and that may lead to a lot of security or SQL injection problems also, right? So Jinja SQL comes to help with that, using which you can do all those things very, very easily and smoothly. It supports all the Jinja template mostly features like placeholders, variables, if-else conditions, depending upon some parameter. If you want to have some if-else conditions in your MySQL query, that also you can do. And it helps, it is basically parameter, it supports parameter binding also, which is indirectly preventing it from your SQL injection problems. And so this is about how you can write up queries in Python, raw queries in Python, and how you can template in a better manner. And since we are talking on that topic, I just want to touch about Spilly. Spilly is another, I would say, a plugin written by Hastin. If you have a typical use case where you have a database and you want to write some queries and see the visualization or graphs very quickly, Spilly is the one of the best solution for that, I would say. If you haven't heard of it, it's worth playing around. Within a couple of hours, you may directly start getting reports and dashboards for your different queries that you want to perform, right? So this is about the Skilly. Moving next, optimize your queries, right? So in the first step, I talked about importance of logging queries. So once you log your queries, after that, you will be able to see which query is taking how much time. Then you can sort of, pointing out those queries and making a separate note of it. Okay, I need to optimize this query. And another important thing over here is, if you are looking at those query logs, and if you see that one query is getting executed a lot of times, probably you're running n+1 loop problem, or you, so just make a note of it, and probably later on just go to your code and try to analyze that. Okay, is there any scenario where I'm running some query into the loop? Or let's say if there are different queries and you figure out that it's taking more than 1 second or something, make a separate note of it and then think about how I can optimize it, right? So this slide mostly talks about how you can optimize it, right? So indexes, I think indexes is very common, this thing, pretty basic thing in MySQL, where for any query you want to optimize, there are different columns. Index is the strategy that you can use. I will not talk too much about it, but pretty basic. I would like to still say that whatever columns you are very frequently getting used, at least index all those things, right? Or the columns which are used for join. If you index them, your performance will improve very drastically, right? Another point that I want to touch over here is indexes do have overload, right? So if, let's say there is an index which is not probably better suited, or indexes better suited comes in if you have a column and if your most of the values are unique, indexes are best effective over there, right? So if you have some columns which are kind of indexed and you have indexed it and those are not getting used, it creates an extra overhead because each and every time you're adding a record to MySQL or you're trying to update something, your index also gets refreshed, right? So it takes its own memory and CPU, other things. So try to delete all those unused or redundant indexes also. Don't only put indexes on some of the things where you feel that it will improve your performance, and some of the things you can see first or second or third pointers probably points to that, where any column which is getting very frequently used, or probably in where clause, whichever fields you are putting a where clause, and those values are unique, right? Let's say in where clause you say first name equal to something, and first name is most of the time is unique, right? So probably it will help you. But let's say you have some 3-4 labels attached with each and every employee, and you say where employee label equal to something, and if you don't have too much uniqueness over there, that then that index will not be too much useful for you, right? So understand where it is important, what is the overhead of it, and then at the last I have attached a link using which you can do index analysis, right? How better your indexes are getting used. It's probably open source. You can click on this link and it's visible. You can do index analysis, and then you can figure out which are the indexes which are serving you in good and which are the indexes which are totally useless for you. And then you can plan to drop it because it has an extra overhead, as I told you, right? So that's about indexes. And a final summary, quick summary about it is, understand your query set, specifically if you're from Django world and if you're using Django. It's very important to understand how query sets are getting executed, when they are evaluated, how they are cached. It's very important to understand. It's always good to note that how many DB calls you are making in a particular API, right? We talked about Django Toolbar is one of those tool which helps you to note it. Another way probably will be just logging your queries and see how many queries got logged when you're hitting a API endpoint, right? So it's very important, right, to know how many APIs were actually getting executed and what is the time they have taken in terms of serving that particular request, right? Now, any query which is taking more than 1 second, so we standard that follow, most of the queries should go within milliseconds, right? If you have any query which is taking more than 1 second, then probably I would say it needs a review, right? There is something wrong going on. So it's better to have a review once at what is happening, right? Make sure you are not running n+1 queries. Everyone knows it and we talk a lot about it, but knowingly or unknowingly, most of the places I have seen that people do encounter this, and somehow this problem comes very soon or often in most of the scenarios. So make sure and be very, very particular about it that you are not running n+1 queries problem, right? And use indexes whenever you feel that there are too many records and my queries are getting too much, taking too much time, then it's better to index the data, and so that your query result will be faster, right? So that's it probably from my side.